Hey everybody, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we're going to take a look at a brand new plugin from Baby Audio, who's got a lot of great different tools, but their new one here is an algorithmic reverb that is super flexible and can have a really modern hi-fi sound, or an old school sound if you wanted to. Like I said, very flexible. One of the great things about it, of course, is the resizable interface, so let's make this thing nice and big so we can see it very clearly on the screen. And I'm going to go over the controls first. And one of the first unique controls here is that we can sync our start and end times of the reverb to the BPM of the session we're in. That's really common for delays, but less so for reverbs. But this is really cool because we can have our reverb tail totally locked into the tempo of the song. Of course, we could also unsync it and just manually control it in milliseconds if we want to for our pre-delay and tail length. So there are four basic sections to the reverb past the center section. And the first one we're going to look at here is reflections. We have a bunch of different sizes from tiny all the way up to spacey. This is kind of the character of the reverb, the space you're supposed to be in. And one of the really cool things is that size and length of the reverb are completely independent of each other. So it could have a gigantic space with a short reverb tail, or I could have a really tiny space with a really long reverb tail. So creating this artificial thing that doesn't really happen in the real world, we can create it within this reverb, which is great. The sparkle control emphasizes high frequency content for brighter reverb. Just kind of slide it up like that. We've got a width control that goes from mono all the way to like super stereo to normal full stereo. In the depth panel on the bottom left, we've got a resolution control. The pristine setting is kind of a modern sounding, very clean reverb at the expense of higher CPU usage versus the basic, which is lower CPU, more efficient, but might have some artifacts kind of reminiscent of older like 80s style digital reverbs, which may be cool sounding. And we can have the high in between. Modulation adds some pitch shift to our tails, some warble. You'll hear it as we play with it later. Shimmer's kind of cool when we turn it on or off with this button because we can control the decay of the high frequency content only. So on the bottom, we've got like a cutoff point, 2K, 4K, or 8K. And these multipliers on top are how much longer that high frequency information is going to decay more than the low frequency information. So you kind of get this, for lack of a better word, shimmer on top of the reverb tail, which is really nice. The cleanup section has three different controls. Damping is just high pass and low pass filtering. Really cool interface to do it though. This sort of little mini Pac-Man here. That's cool for the high pass and low pass. The sides is a monoizer. So if you've got a lot of low end content going into the reverb, it can kind of muddy up the low end, making the low end stereo. So this is just the frequency below which we have mono signal, which is great in a reverb. We've got a gate if we want to have sort of a Phil Collins style 80s gated reverb sound. We've got a gate built in. The tone down here in the shape section is a tilt EQ, so we can emphasize the lows while cutting the highs, or vice versa. The smoothing is a custom EQ shape to make the reverb fit in the mix a little bit better if you've got a lot of reverb going on in a really dense mix. We'll play with that later. And then we've got transients, which is kind of like a transient designer built into the reverb, where we can emphasize the sustain portion of the reverb or the attack portion. This is really great if you've got some percussive sources you want to use it on. In the center section, below our start and end times and our sync, we've got the output section. A ducker is built in, which is great. So when the dry signal is playing, the reverb is ducked down. When the dry signal stops, the reverb blooms back up. The button below here turns gentle on or off. Gentle is kind of a more natural sounding ducking. We can get reversed reverb effects with this button. We can freeze the reverb at a moment in time indefinitely. We've got our dry wet slider here. This is on ascend right now, so I'm going to put it 100% wet and lock it in place. And we can change the interface color from dark to light. Like I said, it's resizable. And we've got a ton of presets built into, which we'll look at in a little bit. So audio-wise, the first thing I'd like to do is listen to this on a vocal part. And this is, again, the default setting. I did move a couple of sliders on here, but the basic setting, and this is what it's going to sound like.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold that's shone around me only radiates through you.
I'm going to leave this reverb set pretty hot, more than I would in a real mix, just so we can hear what it sounds like. Now in a real mix, I would bring that down for sure.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting...
And blend it in subtly, but we're going to turn it up so we can hear it.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
The first thing I'm going to do is mess with this size parameter and go all the way to spacey.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
If we drag the end slider over, we can make a giant space.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
Where that tail kind of goes on forever. But like I said a few minutes ago, we can also have a giant space with a really short reverb tail.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the goal that
So we get the character of a big space with the length of a small one. Or we could do the opposite. We could go to a tiny space here with a giant tail.
need you to stay new, the rest.
You can hear the modulation in there, so I'm going to dial that back a little bit for now. Let's put it somewhere in the middle. Now the sparkle parameter emphasizes that high end.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
Versus none.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Need you to stay new.
And we can go anywhere in between.
Need you to stay new.
Double-clicking brings it back to its default setting. For width, we can start at mono and build it up bigger.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold that's shown around me only radiates through you.
So like super stereo outside the speakers almost. Down to our resolution section, let's go pristine.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold.
Now let's compare that to the tail on the basic.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold.
So they're both cool sounds, but a little different. We can really dial up the modulation.
Need you to stay new.
Hear that pitch move up and down. Let's try the shimmer setting. Let's turn it off to begin.
Need you to stay new.
Typical reverb sounds. We turn it on. I'll set the multiplier to 6 times.
Need you to stay new.
Now that high end decays even longer there. Let's check out the high and low pass filters.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold that's shown.
It's great to have this built in because a really typical use in reverb is to put the reverb in, but then put an EQ after it, cut the low and high out, have it sort of be mid-centered. That's really nice. This mono's at the low end. We really don't need to use it on the vocal. We can gate it.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold that's shown around me only radiates through you. I need you to stay new.
There we go. Gotta turn the gate off. There we go. The tone control.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold that's shown around me
Smoothing.
only radiates through you. I need you to stay new, it radiates through you.
That custom EQ curve can really shape the tail.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
We can emphasize that sustain or the attack portion of the signal with that transient section. Let's jump over to the ducker really quick.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold that's shown around me only radiates through you. I need you to stay new, it radiates through you. Stay new, stay new.
So at 100% is kind of unnatural. Somewhere in this range is pretty good for ducking. Let's try the reverse.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold that's
Back to normal and we'll freeze it.
need you to stay new, the
And off. You can get really creative with automating that freeze button in a mix. Okay, next thing is going to go through a couple of presets to see what they have set up for us here. There's a ton, like I said, included here. Let's jump down to just some vocal presets. We'll go with Warm Vintage first.
need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
Vocal ambience.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
Small plate.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
Now in that case, I think the gate was too much.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
There we go, adjusting the plate helps. Medium plate.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
The big pre-delay on that one. Long
Need
plate.
you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
That's a plate with a shimmer, which is pretty cool.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Now that the gold that's shown around.
It's a short mono plate.
Need you to stay new.
Cool, let's jump to some other ones.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old.
How about some of these artist presets? See what we have going on here.
Need you to stay new, the rest is getting old. Need you to stay new, the rest.
That's pretty cool to have such a long pre-delay. So there we have it. Crystalline from Baby Audio, a great sounding reverb plugin. Highly recommended, check it out. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, so we can keep you in the loop as to what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one.